Deep in the vastness of space, aboard the massive hunting vessel, Night Stalker, Captain Rex stood before his crew of apex predators. Their species, the Hunters, had dominated the galaxy for millennia, seeking out the most dangerous prey across thousands of worlds. Their reptilian scales gleamed under the ship's lights as Rex addressed them about their next target, a newly discovered species called humans. "Our scouts have located a promising hunting ground," Rex announced, his clawed hand gesturing to the holographic image of Earth floating before them. "The creatures there call themselves humans. They appear weak, with no natural weapons and soft skin. But appearances can be deceiving." The ship's lead researcher, Tom, stepped forward. Unlike his more warrior-like companions, Tom preferred studying prey before hunting them. His analytical mind had saved many hunting parties from disaster. "Captain, there's something unusual about these humans. They don't fit any standard prey pattern we've encountered before." Rex turned his yellow eyes toward Tom. "Explain." "Most species either evolve to be fast or strong, to hide or to fight. But humans..." Tom paused, checking his data tablet. "They've evolved to persist. They don't outrun their prey, they chase it until it collapses from exhaustion. They don't overpower their enemies, they outlast them. They call it persistence hunting." The crew murmured among themselves. This was unlike anything they'd encountered in their centuries of hunting across the stars. Most prey either fought or fled. The idea of a species that simply kept coming was unsettling. "Furthermore," Tom continued, "they've developed something even more dangerous than physical weapons. They have the ability to turn any environment to their advantage. They don't adapt to their surroundings like other species, they force their surroundings to adapt to them." Rex studied the holographic images of human cities spreading across Earth's surface. "You sound concerned, Tom. These are still just primitive beings compared to us. We have technology they can't even comprehend." Tom shook his head slowly. "Captain, I've analyzed their historical records. Every time they've faced a superior force, they don't just fight back, they learn, adapt, and improve. They've turned their greatest defeats into their most significant victories. And most worryingly..." He pulled up new data showing human technological advancement. "They progress at an exponential rate." The crew watched as the timeline showed humans advancing from simple tools to space exploration in a mere blink of cosmic time. It was unprecedented. "My recommendation," Tom concluded, "is that we mark this species as too dangerous to hunt. Not because of what they are now, but because of what they'll become if we make them our enemy." Rex stood silent for a long moment, his predator's instincts warring with the troubling data before him. In all his years of hunting, he'd never seen Tom this concerned about a seemingly harmless species. "Show me more," Rex finally ordered. "I want to understand exactly what makes these humans so different from every other prey we've hunted." As Tom began presenting his detailed findings, none of the crew realized they were about to learn why their species, the galaxy's most feared hunters, would soon add Earth to their list of forbidden hunting grounds, not to protect the humans, but to protect themselves. Tom's claws moved swiftly across the control panel, bringing up detailed footage of human activities. The hunting crew leaned forward, their natural predatory instincts making them eager to understand this strange new prey. "Watch this," Tom said, displaying video of human soldiers training in various environments. Most species specialize in one type of terrain: forest, desert, Arctic. Humans don't just survive in all of them, they thrive. They've developed equipment and techniques to fight effectively anywhere. The footage showed humans operating in burning deserts, frozen wastelands, dense jungles, and even underwater. Captain Rex's eyes narrowed as he processed this information. "Many species can adapt to different environments given time," he argued. "True," Tom replied, "but humans do it instantly." He switched to new footage. "This is what they call rapid deployment. They can drop their warriors into any environment with minimal preparation. And if their equipment fails? He paused for effect. They improvise. The next series of images showed humans creating tools from seemingly nothing, building shelters from wreckage, and turning everyday items into weapons. The crew watched in growing unease as they realized these creatures could turn literally anything into a means of survival or combat. But here's what truly makes them dangerous, Tom continued, pulling up new data. They share information at an unprecedented rate. When one human learns something, they teach others. When one group develops a new technique, it spreads globally within days. They call it the Internet, but it's really more like a planetary hive mind. One of the younger hunters, Mark, spoke up. But we have superior technology. Our weapons would only work once, Tom interrupted. Look at their history. He displayed scenes from various human conflicts. Every time they face a new weapon, they study it, reverse engineer it, and develop countermeasures. Sometimes they even improve upon the original design. They don't just learn from victory, they learn even more from defeat. The crew watched footage of human military exercises, noting how they practiced fighting against superior forces, always assuming they were at a disadvantage and finding ways to overcome it. And that brings us to their most terrifying trait, Tom said quietly. They're not just persistent in physical pursuits, they're mentally persistent too. When they decide something is possible, they keep trying. Until they succeed, no matter how many failures they endure. He showed them the history of human flight, from failed attempts with wooden wings to primitive airplanes, all the way to space travel. It took them only 66 years to go from their first powered flight to landing on their moon. 66 years. Some of us live longer than that. Captain Rex paced the command deck, his predator's instincts warring with his tactical judgment. You're suggesting we avoid hunting them not because of what they can do now, but because of how they'll respond if we try? Exactly, Tom confirmed. If we hunt them and fail, or even if we succeed but leave any survivors, we'll teach them about our existence. And then? He let the thought hang in the air. And then they'll start hunting us, Rex finished, understanding dawning in his yellow eyes. They already practice hunting animals larger and stronger than themselves, Tom added. They call it big game hunting. To them, it's a sport. Now imagine if they decided to hunt us for revenge. The crew fell silent, each member contemplating the implications. They had evolved to be the galaxy's perfect predators, but they'd just discovered a species that had evolved to overcome any predator, any obstacle, any challenge, simply by refusing to give up. Rex made his decision. Send word to the High Council. Earth and its humans are to be marked as a restricted zone. No hunting permitted. He turned to face his crew. We're not just protecting ourselves, we're protecting our entire species. As the Night Stalker turned away from Earth's solar system, its crew had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous prey isn't the strongest or the fastest, but the one that never, ever stops coming. The High Council chamber of the hunters was rarely used for emergency sessions. Yet here they were, the most experienced hunters in the galaxy, gathered to discuss a species that barely had faster-than-light travel. Captain Rex and Tom stood before them, presenting their findings about humans. Honorable Council, Rex began, we've discovered something unprecedented. A species that doesn't just survive, it actively seeks out challenges to overcome them. The council leader, an ancient hunter named Drake, leaned forward on his ceremonial throne. His battle-scarred scales showed his centuries of experience. You expect us to fear creatures that haven't even colonized their own solar system? Tom stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Watch this human training ritual they called boxing. The footage showed two humans repeatedly striking each other, getting knocked down, and getting back up. Most species avoid pain. Humans voluntarily endure it to become stronger. The council members shifted uncomfortably as Tom continued. They have competitions where they run until they collapse, climb freezing mountains for fun, and dive into deep oceans just to see if they can. They call these activities, sports, and hobbies. An older council member named Jack spoke up. Many species have endurance trials. But not like this, Tom countered. Humans don't just endure, they actively seek out ways to push their limits. And here's the truly worrying part. He switched to new footage. They teach their young to do the same. The display showed human children learning martial arts, running races, playing rough games, and getting up after falling. From their earliest years, they're taught that failure is just a step toward success. They have a saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Drake's expression remained skeptical. You still haven't explained why this makes them too dangerous to hunt. Rex took over the presentation. Because, honored council, they're already hunting creatures larger and more dangerous than themselves, for sport. He showed footage of human hunters tracking large predators. They don't do it for food or resources. They do it to prove they can. And their methods are evolving, Tom added. They're developing technologies specifically designed to track and capture dangerous creatures alive for study. They want to understand everything they encounter. The council chamber filled with murmurs as Tom displayed human wildlife research facilities. They don't just kill, they study, learn, and adapt. If they discovered us hunting them, they wouldn't just fight back. They would make understanding us their primary goal. And once they understand something, they learn to defeat it, Drake finished, finally showing concern. Exactly, Rex confirmed. And they have another trait that makes them uniquely dangerous, they unite against external threats. Watch this. He showed historical footage of human nations at war with each other immediately setting aside their differences when faced with a common enemy. Their nations can be bitter enemies one day, and staunch allies the next if they face a greater threat, Tom explained. If we hunt them, we won't face isolated groups of humans, we'll face all of them, working together, sharing information, and focusing their entire species' resourcefulness on defeating us. Drake stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the chamber. You believe they could truly threaten our dominance? I believe, Rex said carefully, that hunting humans would be like hunting a creature that becomes stronger every time it's wounded, smarter every time it's tricked, and more determined every time it fails. And worse, it would teach others to do the same. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Their species had evolved to be perfect predators, but humans had evolved to overcome their limitations by sheer determination and ingenuity. There's an old human saying, Tom added quietly. What doesn't kill them makes them stronger. Do we really want to risk making them strong enough to kill us? Drake looked around the chamber, seeing the growing concern on his fellow council members' faces. The decision was clear. Earth would be marked as forbidden territory, not because humans were too weak to hunt, but because they were too dangerous to make into enemies. Not everyone in the Hunter Society agreed with the High Council's decision. A group of young hunters, led by the ambitious warrior Sam, gathered in the lower levels of their homeworld's capital city to voice their disagreement. They're treating these humans like they're some kind of unstoppable force, Sam growled, pacing before his followers. But they're just soft-skinned creatures who haven't even left their own star system. His group had secretly collected their own data on humans, and now they were reviewing it in their hidden meeting place. The holoprojector showed scenes of human military training exercises. Look at this. Sam pointed to the footage. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships can barely reach their own moon. How can the council be so afraid? An older hunter named Max stepped out from the shadows. He'd been quietly observing the meeting, and now he felt compelled to speak. You're looking at their weapons, he said softly. You should be looking at their tactics. Sam turned, surprised by the interruption. What do you mean? Max walked to the holoprojector and adjusted the display. Watch how they train. They don't practice with their best weapons, they practice with their worst. They deliberately handicap themselves. They train to fight in the dark, in the rain, with broken equipment, with minimal supplies. The footage showed soldiers training in harsh conditions, adapting to equipment failures, and improvising solutions to unexpected problems. But why? One of Sam's followers asked. Because they assume everything that can go wrong, will go wrong, Max explained. They have a name for it, Murphy's Law. And instead of fearing it, they embrace it. They prepare for it. He switched to different footage, showing human emergency response teams. Look at how they react to disasters. They don't just have one plan, they have backup plans for their backup plans. And when all plans fail, they improvise. Sam watched as humans rescued others from burning buildings, flooded cities, and collapsed structures. Each time, they adapted their methods to the situation, using whatever tools were available. Still, Sam argued, we have better technology, better weapons. Which would only work until they captured one of us, Max interrupted. Do you know what they did when they first discovered electricity? Within a few generations, they went from understanding basic electrical principles to building computers that could outthink their brightest minds. He brought up historical footage of human technological advancement. They don't progress in a linear fashion. Each discovery builds on all previous discoveries, creating exponential growth. Give them access to even one piece of our technology, and they'll take it apart, study it, improve it, and mass-produce it. The young hunters watched in silence as Max showed them footage of human manufacturing facilities. See how they make their weapons? They don't craft each one individually like we do. They create systems to produce thousands, millions of identical copies. They call it mass production. But we're stronger, faster, Sam began. And they know how to defeat stronger, faster opponents, Max said. They've been doing it their entire history. They have fighting styles specifically designed to use an opponent's strength against them. They call it martial arts. He showed them footage of smaller humans defeating larger opponents using leverage and technique rather than strength. They don't try to overpower their enemies, they study them, find their weaknesses, and exploit them. Sam's confidence began to waver as he watched. How do you know so much about them? Because I was like you once, Max admitted. Young, eager to prove myself. I studied humans in secret, planning to hunt them against the Council's wishes. He paused, his yellow eyes reflecting the holographic light. The more I learned about them, the more I realized that hunting them would be suicide, not just for the hunter, but potentially for our entire species. The room fell silent as Max's words sank in. Even Sam, who had been so eager to prove himself by hunting humans, began to understand the wisdom of the Council's decision. There's an old human saying, Max concluded. Know your enemy. The irony is, the better you know humans, the more you realize why making them your enemy is the last thing you want to do. The Hunter Research Facility was unusually busy today. Tom had called an emergency meeting of the galaxy's top xenobiologists to share his latest findings about humans. The observation screens showed various human activities that had been secretly recorded over the past months. What you're about to see changed everything we thought we knew about humans, Tom announced to the gathered scientists. We've been focusing on their physical capabilities, their technology, their tactics. But we've missed something far more fundamental, their imagination. He displayed footage of human children playing make-believe games. Look at this. From their earliest years, humans practice something they call creativity. They imagine things that don't exist and then try to make them real. One of the scientists, Bill, leaned forward. Many species play as youngsters. Not like this, Tom countered. When human children pretend to fly, their adults build flying machines. When they imagine traveling to the stars, their scientists start designing spaceships. Their fiction becomes their reality. He switched to a series of images showing science fiction stories alongside later technological achievements. They imagine it first, then they build it. They called it science fiction, stories about impossible things. But the impossible keeps becoming possible. The room fell silent as Tom displayed more evidence. They write stories about traveling faster than light, and their scientists start theorizing how to do it. They imagine communicating instantly across vast distances, and they create global communication networks. They dream about immortality, and their medical researchers work on extending human life. Another scientist, Jane, spoke up. "Are you suggesting their imagination is a weapon?" "Exactly," Tom replied. "But not just a weapon, it's their greatest strength. When faced with a problem, they don't just look for existing solutions. They imagine new ones. And here's the truly dangerous part." He paused, bringing up new footage. They share these imaginings with each other. The screens showed humans gathered in large groups, sharing stories, discussing ideas, building on each other's thoughts. They call them brainstorming sessions. One human imagines a partial solution, another builds on it, a third connects it to something else entirely. They can solve problems none of them could solve alone. "But surely this is inefficient," Bill argued. "Trial and error based on imagination?" Tom shook his head. "That's what makes it so powerful. They don't just try one solution, they try hundreds, thousands of possible solutions simultaneously. They call it parallel processing. Different groups work on different approaches to the same problem. They expect most attempts to fail, but they only need one success." He showed footage of various human research facilities working on similar problems in different ways. And when one group succeeds, they immediately share their findings with all other groups. The next problem they face, they start with all the knowledge gained from every previous attempt, successful or not. "But how does this make them dangerous to hunt?" Jane asked. Tom's expression grew serious. "Because if we hunt them, we become their problem to solve. Every human on their planet would start imagining ways to defeat us. Millions of minds working in parallel, sharing ideas, building on each other's solutions. They wouldn't just use weapons, they'd imagine new ones. They wouldn't just fight back, they'd imagine new ways of fighting." He brought up one final image, a human child drawing a picture of a monster being defeated by a hero. "This is how it starts. They imagine victory. Then they work until imagination becomes reality. They call it innovation, and it's the fastest evolutionary advantage we've ever encountered." The scientists sat in stunned silence, finally understanding why the High Council had declared Earth off-limits. They weren't just protecting their hunters from humans' current capabilities, they were protecting them from what humans would imagine and then create if they felt threatened. "There's an old human saying," Tom concluded. "The only limit is your imagination." The problem is, humans don't seem to have limits to their imagination. And what they can imagine, they can eventually create. The Hunter Military Academy's Great Hall was filled with young cadets eager to learn from Captain Rex's experiences. After the High Council's decision to mark Earth as forbidden territory, the Academy had created a new course, Understanding Dangerous Species, the Human Case Study. Today, Rex began, standing before the large view screen, "We'll discuss what truly makes humans the most dangerous prey we've ever encountered, their ability to turn weakness into strength." He displayed footage of early human civilization. "Look at these beings. No claws, no natural armor, no significant physical advantages. By all logic, they should have been easy prey for their planet's predators. Instead, they became the apex predators of their world." A young cadet raised his hand. "But how, sir? They seem so vulnerable." Rex nodded. That vulnerability forced them to become something unprecedented. Watch this. He showed scenes of human invention and adaptation. They couldn't run fast enough, so they domesticated faster animals. They couldn't fly, so they built flying machines. They couldn't survive extreme cold, so they created artificial heating. The footage continued, showing humans thriving in every environment on their planet. But here's what makes them truly unique, Rex continued. They didn't just solve their problems, they turned their solutions into new advantages. He switched to military footage. They took their domesticated animals into battle. Their flying machines became weapons platforms. Their temperature control technology allowed them to operate in environments that would kill most species. Another cadet spoke up. "But sir, we have better technology than they do." "For now," Rex agreed. "But we developed our technology as hunters, focusing on making our natural strengths even stronger. Humans developed their technology to overcome their weaknesses, which gave them something far more valuable: versatility." He displayed a comparison of hunter and human military tactics. "We train to be perfect predators. Humans train to be whatever the situation requires. They can be predators or prey, aggressive or stealthy, direct or deceptive. They adapt their strategy based on their opponent's strengths and weaknesses." The view screen showed humans using different tactics against different enemies. They have a saying in their military: "The enemy gets a vote." They never assume their preferred strategy will work. Instead, they prepare multiple approaches and switch between them as needed. A senior cadet named Pete raised his hand. "But wouldn't that make them predictable? If they always counter their opponent's strength?" Rex smiled grimly. "That's what makes them even more dangerous. They understand the concept of deception at a fundamental level. Sometimes they appear weak when they're strong, or strong when they're weak. They call it psychological warfare." He showed footage of human military deceptions throughout history. They create fake armies to fool their enemies. They leak false information. They make their forces appear larger or smaller than they really are. And most importantly, they study how their enemies think. The cadets watched in fascination as Rex explained how humans analyze their opponent's psychology, culture, and decision-making patterns. "But here's the most crucial lesson," Rex said, his voice growing serious. "Humans don't just learn from their victories, they learn even more from their defeats. Every time they fail, they study why they failed and develop countermeasures. They have a saying: those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it." He brought up one final image: Earth, peaceful and blue, floating in space. "This is why we can't hunt them. It's not just about their current capabilities. It's about what they would become if we tried. Every hunter we sent would give them more information about us. Every battle would teach them more about our weaknesses. And they would keep learning, keep adapting, keep improving until they could defeat us." The cadets sat in silence, finally understanding why their mightiest hunters had chosen to avoid this seemingly weak species. "Remember this," Rex concluded. "True danger doesn't always come from strength or speed or natural weapons. Sometimes, the most dangerous opponent is the one who has learned to turn every weakness into a strength, every defeat into a lesson, and every challenge into an opportunity for growth." 5 years had passed since the High Council's decision to mark Earth as forbidden territory. In the Great Archive of the Hunter homeworld, Tom was recording the final entry in his comprehensive study of humans. His research had become required reading for all hunter youth, a warning about the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. "In our final analysis," Tom spoke into the recording device, "we've discovered that humans possess a quality more dangerous than any natural weapon: they refuse to accept limitations." He activated the archive's main display, showing a montage of human achievements throughout their history. Every time they encountered a barrier, they found a way through it, around it, or over it. When they couldn't find a way, they created one. The display showed humans reaching seemingly impossible goals, diving to ocean depths that should have crushed them, climbing mountains where they shouldn't have been able to breathe, flying through the air despite having no wings, and surviving in space where no life was meant to exist. But their most dangerous quality, Tom continued, is their ability to unite and cooperate in ways we never imagined possible. While our society values individual strength, humans have learned to combine their strengths in unprecedented ways. He brought up footage of human space programs, showing thousands of people working together to achieve a single goal. They have a concept they call standing on the shoulders of giants. Each generation builds upon the achievements of those who came before. They don't see individual glory as the highest goal, they see collective achievement as the path to greatness. The archive screens displayed human scientific conferences, international cooperation, and global information sharing networks. They've created systems to share knowledge instantly across their entire planet. When one human makes a discovery, millions can learn about it within minutes. They call it going viral, an apt description for how rapidly they can spread and adapt ideas. Tom paused, considering his next words carefully. Our decision not to hunt humans wasn't just about protecting our hunters. It was about protecting our entire way of life. Because if we had tried to hunt them, we wouldn't have just faced their current capabilities, we would have faced their potential. He showed simulations of possible human responses to hunter attacks. They would have united against us. Their scientists, soldiers, strategists, and inventors would have all focused on a single goal, defeating us. They would have studied our every weakness, developed countermeasures for our every strength, and never stopped until they had found a way to win. The display showed human victory celebrations from various conflicts in their history. They have a remarkable ability to achieve what they believe is possible, even if it seemed impossible to everyone else. And once they achieve it, they immediately set their sights on the next, impossible goal. Tom stood, walking closer to the recording device. Future generations of hunters might question our decision. They might look at human technology and see how primitive it is compared to ours. They might see human physical capabilities and think they could easily overpower them. But that would be a fatal mistake. He activated one final display, a simple image of Earth at night, showing the lights of human civilization spreading across the planet. Because humans aren't just another species to hunt. They're a force of nature that refuses to be limited by nature itself. They don't just adapt to their environment, they adapt their environment to suit them. They don't just overcome obstacles, they turn obstacles into opportunities. Tom's voice grew solemn as he concluded his final entry. We are the galaxy's apex predators because we evolved to be perfect hunters. Humans are more dangerous because they never stopped evolving. They force themselves to grow stronger, to become smarter, to reach further. They see every limit as a challenge and every boundary as an invitation to go beyond it. He looked one last time at the image of Earth before shutting down the archive's display. In the end, we chose not to hunt humans not because we feared what they are, but because we feared what they would become. In their language, there's a word that perfectly describes them, indomitable, that which cannot be subdued or overcome. And in all our centuries of hunting across the galaxy, that is the one type of prey we dare not face.